That compilation of names pulls in at least 19 more figures. Think a powerhouse Hollywood producer sitting on hundreds of millions. A member of royalty with a princely title. A major name dominating the music scene. A heavyweight in global banking. A top-tier government insider. A well-known ex-politician. The head of an Italian automotive empire. A legendary rock icon. A world-famous illusionist. And no fewer than 6 billionaires. One of them hailing from Canada. Just 3 minutes ago, Congressman Thomas Massie pulled off something that's going to make the entire DC machine squirm for answers they've dodged forever. No games, no filler chit-chat. He rose in that Judiciary Committee room, locked eyes with FBI Director Kash Patel, and hit him with the question everyone's been terrified to voice out loud. Have you actually gone through the Epstein files yourself? The response? Murky at best. And that fuzziness is precisely why this exchange is already blasting across every network tonight. Stay locked in through the full video, because when you see the stack Massie pulled from his folder and the way Patel's composure shifted as those details landed, it'll all click into place. New around here? Hit subscribe and smack that bell now. This one's exploding fast, and you don't want to miss a single update. Let's paint the picture. House Judiciary Committee, mid-afternoon oversight on the FBI. Everyone expected the usual script. Budget line items, counterterrorism stats, standard procedural back and forth. Pure Capitol Hill theater. Lots of words, zero substance. Kash Patel strode in radiating that signature assurance. 3 attorneys at his side, aides hauling cases. That signature posture, shoulders squared, head high, the walk of a guy who stared down tougher rooms. He sat through countless of these grill sessions. He knows the playbook. Deflect smoothly. Burn time. Deliver responses that echo like answers without committing to anything real. He figured today would follow the pattern. He miscalculated. Thomas Massie was ready and waiting. If you're not familiar with Massie, quick primer. This guy's a straight shooter. MIT-trained engineer. Hardcore libertarian who actually reads legislation word for word before voting. They nickname him Mr. No because he'll tank anything that fails his personal logic check, even if it ticks off his own side. Optics not his priority. Truth is, and he showed up armed with hard evidence. The opening 45 minutes, textbook routine. Other reps tossed softballs on cybersecurity, foreign spying threats, domestic extremism numbers. Patel delivered his rehearsed lines, flipped through notes, stayed cool and collected. He seemed in command. Then Massie's turn arrived. The vibe in the room flipped instantly, like static before lightning. Everyone sensed the shift. Massie skipped the smiles and small talk. He cracked open a thick red folder, tabs color-coded, and dove straight in. Director Patel, I'd like to submit 4 items for the record. Instant hush. First up, he said evenly, almost like casual conversation. An article headlined something like, Jeffrey Epstein's crimes hid in plain view for years. It quotes former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, admitting he was instructed that Epstein belonged to intelligence and to back off. Massie let those words hang. Back off. Next, a piece on warnings from Epstein's own bodyguard about ties to the CIA. Third, Fox reporting on Epstein's schedule showing planned sit-downs with an Obama-era official and the CIA director. Fourth, a Wall Street Journal. Deep dive on Ehud Barak, former Israeli PM and military intel chief, meeting Epstein a staggering 36 times. Massie glanced up. No objection? These enter the record. Patel's face held steady, but checked the body language. His hands pressed firmer into the table, fingers tensing just enough to notice. Massie kept the pressure on. Director, I caught your Senate appearance yesterday. Senator Kennedy asked point blank. You've reviewed most of the files. Who else did Epstein traffic victims to besides himself? Your answer, per the transcript, no credible evidence he trafficked them to anyone else. Massie leaned in closer. That stands out to me, because it clashes with what's actually sitting in your bureau's files. The air got colder. Patel started to reply, but Massie rolled forward. You mentioned limits from 2006 to 07 search warrants, and that old non-prosecution deal blocking progress. True for Florida's Southern District. But those restrictions never touched New York's Southern District, right? The 2019 indictment venue, the one that generated thousands of pages, including a stack of FD 302s. He slid another page forward. FD 302s, for anyone unfamiliar, these are official FBI summaries of witness interviews. Sworn statements, not gossip. Real records of what victims told agents. Massie continued, voice level. Victims who worked with the FBI in that probe say these documents, ones the Bureau still holds, Director Patel, identify at least 20 men Epstein trafficked victims to. Victims including minors. One named outright, Jess Staley, ex-CEO of Barclays, including Virginia Giuffre. Rest in peace. The chamber froze. Cameras snapping, reporters hammering keyboards, members trading stunned looks. Shock mixed with, someone finally said it. Massie pressed ahead. That roster covers at least 19 additional figures. A Hollywood producer worth hundreds of millions. A royal prince. A standout in the music world. A major banker. A prominent government figure. A former high-level politician. The owner of an Italian car manufacturer. A rock star. A magician. At least 6 billionaires. 1 Canadian. He fixed his gaze on Patel. These names live in the FBI files you oversee. I may not have the exact identities, but your agency does. Patel moved to jump in. Congressman, the limits I referenced. Massie cut clean. Have you opened investigations into any of them? 20 seconds. Pure, heavy silence. In a hearing like this, 20 seconds feels like forever. It's the sound of no defense left. The instant history books will replay. Patel finally answered, tone dialed down, more guarded. Congressman, it's not my claim these victims lack credibility. It's the position of 2 separate U.S. attorneys' offices across 3 administrations after reviewing the same evidence. Massie shook his head. Not my question. Do the 302s exist in FBI custody? Yes or no? Patel paused. Yes. Have you personally examined those 302s where victims identified their abusers? If I personally, no, but the Bureau has. Massie eased back. So how do you testify to the Senate that no names surface when you haven't even cracked the files yourself? Patel's jaw locked, that telltale muscle twitching. Now, Congressman, the DOJ and FBI don't release victim identities. That's not our practice. We also don't push uncredible info. Multiple offices have vetted everything. Massie stayed unflinching. All right, moving on. Were you there when the Attorney General handed binders to social media influencers at that White House gathering? Patel nodded. Yes. If you are open to briefing influencers who gain from sensational victim stories, will you sit down with the victims themselves? The question landed like a weight. Gallery murmurs, notes. Patel glanced at his team. No notes sliding over, no quick whispers. He was exposed. The FBI will engage anyone with relevant information, he offered. Will you personally meet them? Massie repeated. The Bureau and case handlers will. Not what I asked. The tension thickened. Real, unscripted discomfort that makes for gripping footage. Massie switched tracks. Were you directed to rush these documents to the committee the exact day I filed my discharge petition to force their release? Patel blinked. I don't recall the date, so no awareness? They dropped that day, with victim names unredacted because of the haste. The victims aren't thrilled, Director. Another beat of silence. No comeback. Then the hammer. Have you probed any CIA links? Have you reviewed any CIA file on Epstein? If you requested it, would they hand it over? Patel's reply came measured, too measured. I speak for the FBI. Assuming such a CIA file exists, I've seen everything interagency channels shared with us. Would you pursue the CIA file on Epstein if it hasn't crossed to the FBI yet? If it hasn't been provided and holds new leads, the Bureau will examine it. Notice the qualifiers. Assuming if conditional hedges. Language of avoidance, or genuine uncertainty. Massie let it sit on record. He'd scored the point. He rapped with lighter ground. Progress on the January 6 pipe bomb case? On the Las Vegas shooter's motive? Patel seemed almost grateful for the pivot. Ongoing for the first, advances made. For the second, I'll follow up. Massie nodded. Thank you. I yield back. 5 minutes flat. 5 minutes to shatter polished narratives. 5 minutes to etch 20 names, potential CIA ties, and piercing questions into the permanent congressional record. Clips detonated instantly. X lit up. TikTok overflowed. Networks cut in live. Analysts speculated. Is this the setup for subpoenas? At FBI HQ, scramble mode activated. How do you spin questions never meant for daylight? Why does this hit different? The Epstein saga has always felt like a void. Everyone senses the mass, But details stay shadowed. Files locked. Names blacked out. Probes that vanish. Massie flipped the script without leaking secrets or bending rules. He wielded open source articles, prior testimony, and straightforward reasoning to spotlight protection at play. For something or someone. He cornered the director into confirming or denying concrete points. Patel managed neither with conviction. That's the shift. Not about nailing guilt outright. About establishing the inquiries are valid, the evidence real, and official claims don't match actions. Massie trapped Patel. Admit full review. Then justify zero charges. Admit partial review. Explain bold assertions on file contents. Either path cracks credibility wider. What's ahead? Massie built an official trail. Those 4 articles now in the record. The 20-name rundown. CIA file queries. All citable for future sessions, subpoenas, deeper digs. They can't vanish. This isn't the first Epstein probe in hearings, but it's arguably the sharpest. Meticulous prep, laser specifics, massive spotlight. Massie skipped drama, no shouting, no theatrics. He asked clean, sharp questions and let the dodges speak volumes. That's why it sticks. People are exhausted by showmanship, fed up with politicians faking concern while delivering zip. Here was one lawmaker with documents, names, and real resolve for real answers. Whether answers arrive remains open, but the fact they're now asked publicly, on record, impossible to brush off. That changes everything. If you've made it this far, you feel the weight. This transcends routine oversight. It's a pivot in how the Epstein truth unfolds. So drop a like, subscribe, share this everywhere. The more eyes, the harder it is to bury. These questions deserve repetition until they're met. Massie's quiet closer cut deepest, contrasting the Bureau's eagerness to brief influencers against its reluctance to face survivors. That's not mere bad PR. It's a core failure to those who endured the worst. It screams priorities skewed toward optics over accountability. Patel had no solid defense, because none exists. You can't champion influencer sessions while sidestepping victims and pretend justice leads. Massie knew it would expose the contradiction. That's preparation. That's oversight done right. Evidence-driven, methodical, revealing the disconnect between words and deeds. Thomas Massie just demonstrated what real accountability looks like. And Kash Patel just discovered rehearsed lines collapse when someone actually studies the material and asks the hard ones. 3 minutes. That's all it took. 3 minutes to place 20 names, 6 billionaires, a prince, a rock star, a magician, into the congressional record. 3 minutes to reveal the FBI director hadn't personally dug into documents he was summarizing broadly. 3 minutes to prove the apparatus is still shielding somebody. And every viewer now sees it. Massie never raised his voice, never pointed fingers wildly. He simply asked. And in Washington, sometimes that's the deadliest move of all.